Hello, my lovey, and welcome to another episode of ZFG Living Podcast. And today we are not giving ourselves away. We are living with intention with Kari Schwear. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Mel, I am so excited to be here. I love the name of your podcast, by the way. It's so great.
Awesome. I'm all about not giving our resources away, right? We need to use them to build what we want, what we intend for our beautiful lives. And to that end, getting connected with you because of your work with gray areas is fascinating. And it's not gray like my roots. Tell us more about the gray areas, in particular with drinking, which I think is a huge, huge topic in health right now.
Yeah, it really is. So I'll start with gray area drinking. Gray area drinking is this space, this wide spectrum of drinkers that falls in between somebody who is a take it or leave it type, a social drinker, and someone who is severely abusing alcohol. So as you can imagine, this is a huge number of people. It's estimated about 50% of those that consume alcohol may be in this gray area, at least one of the shades of gray. So there's multiple shades of gray with that. So again, it's just a wide spectrum of drinkers. And that's where I found myself for years. And, I never identified as being an alcoholic. I went the traditional route of AA recovery and went to AA. And although it was a phenomenal program, it wasn't a good fit for me. I needed to discover what was underneath it and not needing recovery. So I always say, it's discovery, not recovery. And for most people, they identify with that because we're led to drinking because of how we're feeling. And that, of course, goes back to many things in our life, trauma, former experiences, whatever we're going through, stress, being in a sympathetic state.
Our actual environment.
Yes, everything.
And, how other people are behaving, is there social anxiety playing a little cameo appearance to amp up not the testosterone, the cortisol stress hormone, I'm from New Orleans. I've seen all the reasons for drinking.
Yeah. I bet you have. So yeah, that's the main topic that I really speak about, that I feel very passionate about. When I did quit drinking back in 2016, it wasn't until 2018, 5 years ago, that I heard the term gray area drinking on a podcast. And when I did my research, I couldn't find anything. There was a TED Talk out, and there was one research paper where the term originated, who coined it was these two researchers who studied drinking, this moderate in between drinking, and they came up with the term gray area drinking. So I realized at that moment, man, I need to be that person. I want to be spreading what this is, because if I can get people to raise their hand before they get too far down the line of addiction and severely, where it's no longer a choice, because I'll say this a few times, being in a gray area is a choice. Gray area drinking is a choice.
It's not a compulsion. This is when you're choosing to drink. And the tricky thing, it seems, just for me, not being an expert in the gray area drinking as you are, like when you have your first drink, that's absolutely a choice. Well, so then you've just had a drink, and do you want to have another? And is that going to lead to another? Does like one sip lead to another, even if it involves opening another bottle? Or is it something where you'll have two or maybe three and that's it? So I think that is where, when you find yourself binging, where you're having 4, 5, 6, however much at a session, and like, is that over time? Like, there's a difference to me between having 7 beers from noon to 7 at a family barbecue, you know what I'm saying, and pounding 7 beers in an hour and a half.
Yes. Well, there is a difference between that. So binge drinking is having 3 to 4 drinks in less than a 2-hour period. Okay. 3 drinks for women, 4 drinks for men in less than a 2-hour period. And that's so easy to do. If you think about it, like you said, if you're at a party, you're at a, wedding or whatever, especially open bar type situations, you can easily binge drink. And that is, at that point, you're severely abusing alcohol, or you're moving into abusing alcohol. I shouldn't say severely, but you are abusing alcohol. So the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism states that a woman is moderately drinking if she's having less than 7 standard drinks per week. And for men, it's less than 14 drinks. And a standard drink, Mel, just so the listeners get an idea, is 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, unless it's a craft or malt beverage, then we're talking 8 to 9 ounces. and an ounce and a half of liquor.
I'm gonna
And
say that's not that much.
yeah, let me tell you, my pours of wine were not 5 ounces. They were
No,
more like 8 or 9 ounces. Let's get real,
I
right?
would say a restaurant, if they're doing it to the letter, I think a restaurant pours 6 ounces in the US.
Yes, about that. Yeah. A high-end restaurant, like some of the top steakhouses, they will pour a standard drink size of 5 ounces. Most of them are trained that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say that confidently because I worked in the food and beverage industry for a number of years and was a food and beverage manager at a poshy country club. And yeah, it all comes down to cost, right? So,
Sure.
they're trained to only pour 5 ounces for most places, but it depends on where you go, right? Depends on how much the wine is too.
There, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So we have to be really clear on how much we're actually drinking. So once we start tipping that scale, then we're no longer moderately drinking. We're moving into that abuse category. And there's 3 categories of alcohol abuse disorder. There's mild, medium, and severe. And a gray area drinker is definitely going to be in those categories
Mm-hmm.
without hitting the deeper dark shades of the severely abusing. When you get to that point and it's no longer a choice for you to drink, then you're past that gray area.
And so when you work with people, tell me about your style. I know that you are intention is one of your favorite words. And
Yes.
having the intention, if you're going to consume alcohol, just to be aware of why. And um, some friends and I in college, we had a rule, like if you were feeling up in your emotions, you don't drink.
That's right.
Like,
Well, here's the thing. Everything we do, every single thing that we do is based off on how we feel, everything. And how we feel is coming from our thoughts, and our thoughts are coming from our belief that we believe about something.
mhm.
So it's a circular thinking loop. So whatever you're believing about yourself or the situation is going to create thoughts in your mind. Those thoughts then create feelings, and we act on those feelings. And this is why we choose to drink. We're either escaping from something, or we're chasing it, or we want a different feeling. That's primarily why people use alcohol. It's because they want to have quote unquote fun. They want
Mhm.
to erase their day. They want to relax. And guess what? Alcohol works. It absolutely does. It definitely works in those situations because it's a depressant. But
Right,
it
right. So it
also,
will reduce your inhibitions. It will, but I mean, ultimately, it if you're consistently drinking and especially to excess, then it is going to make you depressed.
yes, it absolutely is going to make you depressed, and it's going to affect your sleep. It's going to affect other areas of your life. So while it might work for the first 20 minutes, past that, it's no longer working. If anything, it's going to end up hurting you in the long run, which is why most of the people that I work with are high achieving business owners, leaders that can't have alcohol part of the equation anymore. Some can go back to a rhythm that works for them, very few, by the way, that can
Interesting.
do that, that are quote unquote successful in doing that, where they have created a nice balance for themselves. Most people find that once they eliminate or reduce alcohol to a point in their life, they start to see the benefits are far outweighing when they were drinking, and they want to continue with that life because, it doesn't take much for us to get into a sympathetic state. And we realize that most of us are living in that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze response. And it's
Mhm.
best to self regulate, come into our own way of doing that to ground ourselves as opposed to numbing it with alcohol. So that's what I primarily teach my clients is looking at their thinking, noticing their feelings, tapping into their body, how do they feel, and getting honest
Mhm.
with themselves.
Thank you. Kari Schwear is here with us today talking about gray area drinking. Wonderful, wonderful information. Look at the show notes if you'd like to reach out to her and work with her. I know she's got a magical new program coming online when this will be ready. So look forward to hearing from you what you think about the episode.
Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you for having me, Mel. I really appreciate it. And yeah, stay tuned for the beginning of the year. I'm releasing a brand new program, as you alluded to, that will really have some transformative nature behind it. And it's going to be great. It's going to be available to most everyone who would be interested. So,
Gorgeous. I love
yeah,
it. Thanks
yeah.
again.